Good day everyone, hope everyone's doing pretty well. So it appears I've not recorded this for the last hour, so I lost all the footage of installing the pistons. Which is a bit of a thing because we covered a lot there. So I just have to now go through a summary of what we did. Yeah, so with piston installation, it's going to be a fun one to redo with everything already inside. So okay. Oh, let's get on with it. Okay, so piston installation, we had our 4 cylinders here. We had our piston installation going on there. We have our ARP rods, they've been torqued to 70 foot-pounds. We have our beams. So let's start. So first thing that we did is we would mark the connecting rods. So let's turn this engine around so I can show you guys what it is at the bottom. Take out the safety pin quickly. Oops. There you go. So we've got safety pins. And just turn this around to the other side. So here we have our, I think I'll angle like that, you guys can see it nicely. Yeah, so see how that looks on the camera. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I will use this as indication. So we have our ARP, what am I saying, ARP? ARP studs on there. Normally in a performance build, those will be the ones that fail first. So you have our ARP studs over there. And you'd have your I-beams here, the Nita ones, so Nita I-beams. I actually got to get my gloves on so I can, well, I'm just going to be indicating, so I don't think we'll need that for this one, but you would also have your gloves on when you do this. 70 foot-pounds as a torque too. I'm not sure if we did the bearing installation with this one or the previous one. I do think it was the previous installation. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to find my words and think what I said here. So okay, so first thing we did is we marked our pistons, we marked our conrods, and we marked our conrod caps. So see if I can just grab the old one here, just hang on for a second. Okay, so I've got the gloves on, just practice what you preach, you know. Okay, so when we have our rod here, we're about to install this one, all the gauging pins and everything. So we obviously would have our bearings on the inside, and then we would want to mark these. So you take out your ARP bolts. Mind you, probably could reuse these ones, but the new ones came with a set, and you'd have like a strain gauge on there to like measure the distance, because as metal basically gets tightened, like it stretches out. It's what's the correct word? Not elasticity, but tensile something. That was metallurgy, so that's on another thing. But yeah, the bolts stretch when they get on force, then you can measure the distance. Yeah, so with this one that we have here, we would mark our caps. So let's say that was a cylinder 2, we'd mark 2 dots there, but also 2 on the bottom cap. Now why is that? So if you're busy putting these things in, you're putting in your bearings and everything, and you take these off, because obviously you can't install it on the crankshaft like that. You have to take the cap off, put the crank in, and put these back on. Yeah, so they have locating pins there. You most probably take these cups, put them on a bench, and do rod 3 and 4 and 1 and the other ones. If you don't have them marked, also no, so just mark the one side, so the other ones don't have any things on there. So if you don't have them marked, you can't remember which way this cap goes on, which is kind of significant. I mean, this one has locating pins, they're the factory rods, so they have the locating pins, so kind of only goes one way. Previous guy still got it wrong, but anyways. But also you wouldn't be sure if it's rod 2 or 3, or you don't want to put rod 4's cap on rod 1. It just wouldn't really work all that well. And then on our piston as well, so I have one here for demonstration purposes, you would mark them too. I like to use a paint pen because these things only burn off in combustion. I don't like to use sharp objects like the engineers do. They punch and like little marks on them, because they can create hot spots, which leads to knock and pre-ignition. Yeah, so that's also why pistons are polished. If they're polished, they tend to they have a lower tendency. I wouldn't say it prevents it, I would just say it has a lower tendency to create knock. And then also you'd have those together, keeping it. Yeah, see the cap fell off because I didn't put the rod bolts back on. And then also exhaust side there, so make sure your orientation is in the correct way. So we would then obviously put in our gauging pin. We would then, obviously I can't do this here because these CP ones, they've got these ones, they don't slide in as easily. as the Manleys. Obviously we now go towards the installation, so we would ideally turn the engine sideways, position, kind of like this. Now normally that's how guys do it. I still prefer to do it this way. Reason being, first of all, we have an oil jet at the bottom. So with the 4B11 and this specific piston configuration, our oil jet will actually catch on the bottom of this. So we had to modify our oil jets to clear the bottom end. Obviously I don't have pistons inside there now, but our current pistons are a lot more solid over here and a lot more metal is over there, so for more strength and everything. But our oil jets were catching, so we did have to modify that, so we have the clearance we need to achieve bottom dead center. Okay, so then you would basically have these slotted in like that. You would set your piston ring gaps, which we'll get to in a moment. And then as you would install these, now with the Manleys, we have a larger tolerance on our gudging pin. Can I see if this thing, where is that? I'll just use this for demonstration. So you have a gudging pin there, and then it was able to slide along the piston bottom end. Some of you guys might have seen that in previous videos, how much space we had there. So when you install it, you want to make sure that your rod is, first of all, facing the right way. You have your markings there. So normally I would always mark them on the same side, so all of them would be marked on that side of the rod. So when I look at the other end, I know my marks are pointing that way. We'd have those on there, get it nice and center, and then you would basically move it in till about, around about there, I would say, and then your piston would be on top. So again, because I didn't record the damn thing properly, but your piston would probably be sitting here, and then you would basically put on your compression tool. Now before you do that, you want to set your ring gaps. Now according to this manufacturer, they recommend Manley, according to the documentation they gave us, top ring gap over the exhaust side, the second compression ring over the bottom. I know I'm showing a CP piston doing Manley instructions, but yeah, I have no words for that actually. Like it probably shouldn't be that way, but just to get you guys the idea of like how it goes. So that's how they recommend it. And then they recommend that their oil ring gap, so you have a rail there, so a little mesh, and then you have a small ring, small thin ring, and a top thin ring. And now Manley recommends them to be in this configuration. So if you look on the camera there, see if you can see that. Let's get a light on here. Is that helping? Not really, but you have a ring gap over there, and you have a ring gap over there. So that's what Manley recommends. Let's make sure I got the documentation correct. I normally don't do it that way, but in this case, Manley have been making pistons longer than I have, so I'm pretty sure they know a thing or two about. I don't want to put the document, but anyway, that's what they recommended on that, which to me is a little bit weird. But I guess the reason behind it is that if you have your ring gap on the top end and you have your compression stroke, you have a ignition of the mixture, and it would basically go down, your ring would expand from the gases, creating a better seal. Personally, I was always taught to do that slightly off center, and then 180 degree from the top ring, slightly off center. Yeah, that's how I was trained. So it's like, this is like a watch. You could like 11 o'clock in the 5 o'clock position. I would have it in there, making sure it's over your thing, and then also your ring gaps would not be on the same side. I don't think that's a very wise thing, but you know, I'm pretty sure Manley know what they're doing. And I would have our ring on the other side also in that. So if the ring gaps would be like this, my all ring gaps would be like that, and obviously the rail would be like, you don't want to have the oil ring gaps here, because I have actually had one of these rings pull off on me like that. I pulled out an engine where the ring was just coming off. It was pretty bad, but yeah, we got to fix anything at the end of the day, so all's well that ends well. Now to install your pistons, you probably would want to use a ring compression tool. Now I have this nice one that I make. It's a bit oily and dirty now, but let's get that cleaned up a little bit. And this is what I used to install our pistons. Now there's something you need to take into consideration when you're installing these ones. Now you are working with the 2618, so you would be able to see from the camera just that massive gap there on the side, just how big that, how far away that piston is from that wall, and that would have an effect on how well your well, no effect. It's just like that's just the tolerances that we're working with. They're a lot bigger with these ones. Now, this block was machined specifically for these pistons, so they were basically blueprinted and matched to these pistons set before we installed it. Because if you look at the old one, it goes back to our damage analysis. They did not do the adequate thermal expansion, and then you would end up with this on there. So that's just from thermal expansion. The piston's creeping out. You can also see from the shape, because your piston is actually tapered, like it's not straight. I don't know if you can see that on the thing. It's a little bit hard to see, but very little. But if you measure the top here and the bottom there, you get two different dimensions, and obviously you can see if you get that oval shape of wear, that is due to your thermal expansion, right? Some guys out there might differ, but that's what I believe this to be. In the end of the day, I'm still replacing them. These are also first oversized. These are standard. Anyway, I'm digressing. So we would have our ring compression tool, and obviously now this is with a conrod, so you would lower your conrod with this into the bore like that. So we would basically have this, set our rings to the correct. Now let's just look at that gap there. So this was built exactly to 86.5 millimeters. And then you would basically like put it in the bore, and it would slide it through like that, and your piston would be installed. So these obviously go a little bit easier because they're undersized. Now the tool you might be more familiar with is this one here. So here you would have your ring compression tool. You would lubricate this on the inside with it's a little bit shiny there, and you would have this. So let me quickly do a demonstration of that. Just tension it up a little, release the tension, do like a little flip back, pull it open. Now there are some things you need to take into consideration with this, and because we're doing the 2618 metal with a higher thermal expansion and everything, it's gonna sit looser in the bore. So there is a chance, we did actually get it in the initial video, I'm so sad we didn't get that on video now, is that the piston actually went sideways and kind of like got stuck like that. So that's because your thermal expansion, so you need to make sure that it's going in straight. So you want to basically, so it will go in, how am I going to demonstrate this now? So you basically would have that type of assembly. You would set it in to about a little bit on about there. You put your ring over. Now you want to have your skirts exposed, so you have a little bit of guidance there. So we'll just do that for demonstration purposes. And then you would use your tool, tighten it up. Again, these are very elementary tools. Most shops have them, AutoZone, super cheap, wherever you're from in the world. Now notice how the piston basically can twist in that. So obviously you make your ring, sure your ring gaps are in the right way, and you put that on there. That's another thing why I prefer the sleeves to these ones, because as this thing moves, it could rotate your rings out of position. With this one is like where you set it, where it goes. So puts it down flat, it goes in there. And then yeah, we'd have this one here, and now you would basically slip that into the bore. It's going to sit very loosely because it is undersized, and you would basically have it like that. Now you got to watch out that you don't tilt over and in, because like I said, top of the piston is much smaller than the bore. So as you would put that in, it would actually have a chance to, like where the sleeve basically would dip in to the side there, and you'd get that caught on the side of the bore. Not as extreme as I just showed, but it is a thing. So I would then basically grab a non-metal device. So your conrod's in, it's aligned, your oil jet has been straightened up to clear the piston. And what I like to do is I like to tap it around the edges like that to make sure that this surface is flat with the bore there. Like that. I'm not going to put this in because there's a piston below it, and then you basically just tap it out. Now 2618, they can move a little, so I didn't lubricate this now anyway, so it'll basically tap it down, and with the force, just to demonstrate like this. I wasn't in the bore properly. There, like that. That's the amount of force that you would use. You don't want to bash it, because if it goes through and your rings get stuck, you would damage your rings and break them off. It's very easy to do that. So if it's not going in, you're not doing it properly. Take it out, start again. Rather, it should go as I just demonstrated. That's how easy it should go in. If it's not going in, it means one of your rings basically pulled. So this other one here tends to do that. So these ones are a little bit more tricky to use. Let's see if I can just do that in there, piston 4, and then right there it gets stuck. So it doesn't matter how much I tap this, she's not going to go in. That's because your ring pulled out there. So that's one thing you got to watch out for with that. So that would be a demonstration where it wouldn't go in properly. If it does, due to your thumb expansion, I don't know if the camera will show that, but it is tapered on that position. Yeah, like that basically. If it goes in like that and it gets stuck, stop what you're doing, take it out from the other side, and then redo it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it with the piston assembly. This is a bit of a fail video because, like I said, the recording just didn't take. I think my memory is actually full, so it cut off halfway, so we lost a lot of content there. I actually installed some of them with this tool, and then another one. So I guess I'll just have to make another engine rebuild video at a stage, get something a bit more decent, that's more community friendly. Get us a bar. Those need to get rebuilt a lot. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the thing. And then obviously now we've marked them. So we've had system cylinder 1, 2, 3, and 4. We would now basically go to the other side. Flip this around. There we go. And we would put on our rod cap. So this is where it's important, because after you've done all that, you can't remember we had to take the oil pump off as well to put all that stuff back on. So I had to take that off and put it on, and then rod caps came on there. So we're going to orientation that to lubricate the bearings, put them back on. It's really hard to tell people how to do this when you've already done the thing you're trying to talk about. Yeah, and then we talk them down to 70 foot-pounds with these ones. This is for 4B11T. Your engine specs might differ. Normally it comes with a thing, so you would have a little sheet that gives you your torque specs that goes with the tool, the component that you purchased. And then you would put that on, and then you would want to do a rotation. So, well, with this one you actually have a bit of a smooth. I'm actually a little concerned about how easy this engine rotates. It feels a little bit too easy for my liking, but hey, that's high performance components for you with proper engine assembly lubricant, so plausible. Yeah, and then we would have our rods in there. So you would do your rods, and so this way it would be easier if you were to rotate the engine sideways, because now you can just put your rods in and then like sort of get them center and then send them up there. But you want to make sure that your connecting rod, as it's coming up from the bottom, okay, well, obviously this is from the bottom end now, that your crankshaft would actually go onto the journal. You're going to be offset and get stuck like that, or stuck like that, and then you're trying to force it in and it's not going, because you damage your crank, you damage your bearings, you damage all those things. Yeah, anyway guys, I'm going to cut that for this year. We need to get this car done, so sorry for the fail video, but it's kind of an important step which I feel I need to address, because yeah, it's just one of the most important parts of the build. But yeah, so we're gonna carry on with the head studs next and the cylinder head, and we will be taking it from there. So yeah, I guess I'll get to it. Thanks for watching guys, and then I will see you guys on the next one.